Welcome to the webinar this morning or this afternoon, depending on where you are. Today, for our webinar, we are going to be talking about breaking through the communication barrier. And this is in connection with our English Pronunciation and Fluency program with Pronunciation Pro. So if you're watching this video from anywhere else, go on over to pronunciationpro.com and check us out. We have some wonderful online programs for you, both kind of a do-it-yourself program, if that's the way you like to learn, but we also have some other programs that allow our American trainers to work with you personally as you go through our 12-week program. So go on over to pronunciationpro.com. We have a free 7-day trial for you, and I know you'll be impressed and we'll find it worthwhile. All right, so today we are going to, just to introduce myself a little bit, my name is Annie Rudin, and I am a speech-language pathologist. So all those letters after my name just means I have a master's in communication sciences and disorders, and I am nationally certified from the American Speech and Language Hearing Association. So basically what this just means is that I have spent a lot of time and a lot of money learning how to teach effective communication, and specifically learning how to help you in your English pronunciation and fluency. I've spent quite a bit of time specializing in accent reduction, accent neutralization, whatever you want to call it, but working with non-native English speakers so that they can be better understood, use more clear and powerful spoken English. So that's what I do, and that's what our program's all about. All right, so just to get started here, and I want to mention at the end of this webinar, I'm going to offer up a discount code for some of our upgraded packages. So if you're a basic package member and are interested in maybe our Plus or Premier packages, at the end of the webinar, I'm going to go ahead and give you a coupon code that's good only for today and tomorrow. We've had a little bit of a New Year's special here in the month of January to kick off the new year. These discount codes don't happen very often, so you might want to take advantage of that. All right, so getting into this webinar, I just want to preface, I came across some statistics that I thought were really interesting and would be very interesting to you. So around the world, according to a recent report from the United Nations, 214 million people, which is 1 out of every 33 humans on the planet, work in a nation other than their birth country. Okay, so we have immigrants all over the world, and immigrants work at all occupational levels and in virtually every locale in the world. So immigrants are everywhere. English, whether you speak English in that new country or not, immigration and immigrants are everywhere. But at the same time, English increasingly has become the language of business, and this is probably not new information for you. But with an estimated of 1 billion non-native English speakers of English in the workplace. I found that to be fascinating. 1 billion, there's 1 billion non-native English speakers in the workplace. So wherever you're working, and if you're working in a setting where English is not your first language, but you're speaking English, there at work, you are not alone. So there are many of you experiencing this same thing. With that, I came across with that in mind, I guess, I came across a research article, or I guess a blog post from the Wharton University of Pennsylvania. And this research project, what well, let me back up. So this blog article talks about the title of it is the glass ceiling facing non-native English speakers. And if you're not familiar with this glass ceiling concept, basically it's talking about kind of this barrier or barrier between those at lower level of management and top level of management. And typically that there's this glass ceiling or this barrier there that keeps certain people from reaching the top. And typically when you're talking about glass ceiling, it usually is in reference to women in the workplace. But in this situation, they're talking about, non-native English speakers and how this glass ceiling effect might be affecting you. And in this blog post, what they mention, and I'll give here's the reference to this blog article. But what was interesting is that they talked about individual called named Paul Graham. He's a venture capitalist, and he said something that sent off had quite the reaction. He was able to both offend and kind of exposed a prejudice about non-native English speakers. And what he said is, one quality that's a really bad indication is a CEO with a strong foreign accent. And as you can imagine, with this strong language, and this was in a interview with Inc. magazine, so in an article in Inc. magazine, and talking about companies who are pitching to venture capitalists, and he really exposed this idea of a prejudice, that there is a prejudice involved with accents, unfortunately. And in this blog post, they talk about that a study that was done at Wharton by a woman named Laura Huang, and it was published in the Journal of Applied Psychology in November of 2013. And really, it kind of just opened up this idea of there being some prejudice associated with accents. And so in this research paper, she says, entrepreneurs with non-native accents, she notes, are significantly less likely to receive new venture funding. And job candidates with non-native accents are also less likely to be recommended for management positions. The researchers found that entrepreneurs with non-native accents were 23% less likely to receive investment funding than native accent entrepreneurs. Okay, so 23% less likely to receive that funding. And she goes on to say they might get technical jobs, but as a group, they face both a glass ceiling when it comes to being promoted to the executive level and discrimination getting financial support for their new business ideas. So with this research paper, it really just brings to light what many of you probably are already experiencing, but this prejudice or this barrier that exists, unfortunately, in the workplace. And hearing this and knowing the clients that I work with and the students I work with, it really is hard to hear. But this is why I do what I do. It's because I believe strongly that you are capable of everything that you are hoping to achieve. And I want to help you do all that you can to remove any barriers or get past that glass ceiling so that you can accomplish what you want to accomplish. But I'm not naive. I know that just working on your accent alone is not going to be the entire answer for you. And that's what this webinar is today. We are going to talk about some other things besides English pronunciation training. And in this article, Huang talks about two solutions to this issue. that non-native English speakers are facing. And, the first that they mention is vocal training. But, in this article, they talk about, oh, it's hard, it takes a lot of time, and sometimes there's backlash from your immigrant group, which, yes, it does take time, it does take effort, but it is very worth the time and the effort, and very essential in your progress. But then there's another strategy that she mentions that we'll talk about a little later in the webinar. All right, so let's go ahead and get into kind of these 5 key habits. And, when I originally wrote the topic for this webinar, I had said 5 key skills. But the more I was thinking about it, the more I thought, you know what, these are habits. They're not just skills, they're habits. And it's something that we have to learn to do repetitively. We have to make it ingrained into what we're doing. And so that's kind of what I came to. But just a preface here, I truly believe anyone can speak English well and confidently. I've been contacted by different students that are maybe in their 50s and, are feeling a little bit like, am I too old to make this change? Am I going to really be able to improve? And to that, I say yes, absolutely. It's all about, and, I kind of mentioned, it really is about, you will be able to make the progress if you have the right resources, which I like to think that my program is the right resource. Maybe not for everyone everywhere, but I believe that my program is the best, if I do say so myself. But so finding the right resources where you can really dive in and really understand English pronunciation in a very real way, and very, extensively. And if you're willing to work hard. And that's the key here, is that it's not going to just happen by casually, listening to some videos and listening to the MP3 files. It is going to take some active involvement from you. All right, so let's jump into these 5 key habits to develop so that you can break through these barriers, or this glass ceiling that they're talking about. The first one I want to talk about is believe in yourself. And this seems a little new age, a little kind of like, I don't know, kind of warm fuzzies, but the more I research it and the more I understand, I have kind of a thing about learning about people who have been successful in their careers, and trying to understand what really sets them apart from everybody else. And it's amazing how this theme of believing in yourself and having that kind of visualizing success in your life, how much that contributes to your success. If you're going around thinking, well, I'm not smart enough, I don't know that I'm going to be able to do it, and all these limiting thoughts can really hold you back from what you are able to accomplish. And again, if you're willing to work for it, then I believe it can. I believe that you can do what you hope to accomplish. And I really want you to give yourself credit for what you've already done. When I talk to my students, I'm always just blown away by what they've already been able to accomplish. They're, being able to learn English in the first place is amazing to me. It is. The more I learn about English, the more I realize it is a very, very complex language, and something that I take for granted, probably because I was raised speaking English. But there are a lot of rules, there are a lot of exceptions to the rules, and it takes a significant amount of time and practice to become fluent. And most of you have done that, and I want you to give yourself a pat on the back for that accomplishment. It is absolutely, absolutely amazing. And on top of that, many of you have moved away from your native country, have come to a foreign place, either in the United States or somewhere else. You are you high level of academic achievement. Many of my students are very high level academic achievement, and they have done a lot in their field to make a difference. And so I really want you to give yourself credit, see what you've done, and be proud of that. One thing that is kind of popular right now are vision boards. And, this is something that I've been interested in doing myself, but basically what it is you can do this either digitally or actually cut out things from a magazine, but you take a poster board or something online and you kind of paste on pictures and quotes and ideas that symbolize what you are looking to accomplish in your life. What is important to you? What is the purpose of what you're doing? What do you think is kind of the goal, or what you wish to accomplish? And kind of arranging a collage of these things to help you, and then displaying it in a place that you see it often. And what this does is it kind of helps you keep focused. It keeps you kind of reaching for the stars, if you will, and kind of identify where your goals are, and what you would like to accomplish helps you be able to take the steps every day to get there. So that's one idea. Another very important aspect is finding a mentor or role model. Thinking of what you are interested in accomplishing, and looking towards those who have accomplished that already, or are accomplishing that, and look at their life, see what they did, see what characteristics they had, and what skills they developed to accomplish that. This, right here on the slide, I just mentioned two different people. One is on the left, we have Ping Fu, who is the CEO of Geomagic. She's a Chinese immigrant, and I just recently read her book, Bend Not Break. Fascinating book, very interesting, and I highly recommend it. But it talks about her life and her journey from being a Chinese immigrant, separated from her parents at age 8, and eventually coming to the United States, and then her path to becoming a CEO of a very successful American company. It's absolutely inspiring, and I love how humble and just amazing she is as a woman. Another book that I have in my queue is a book called Only in America by Paul Orpheus. Or I know I'm not pronouncing that correctly because it's a Italian name, but again, from immigrant to CEO, kind of his path and how he got there, and what characteristics that he possessed to be able to accomplish what he needed to. And being a CEO of a company may not be your ambition, but figuring out what is your ambition, what is your goal, and being able to find people who have accomplished that, and learn from them, and is incredibly helpful. All right, number 2, another habit to develop, and this is absolutely a habit that needs to be created, is make English part of your daily routine. Daily routine. So routines, they are both hard to break and hard to establish, but if they are worthwhile, if it's something that's going to lead to your goals, then it is absolutely critical that you carve out time every single day to work on that goal. And when it comes to English, slow and steady wins the race. If you are spending a half an hour, just even a half an hour every day, focused on your English, focused on your pronunciation, focused on that English development, it will make such a significant difference in the long run. One thing that I want to mention is that I find that so many of my students, well, not necessarily my students, but because I require them to practice and to work on the materials throughout the week and every day. But I've come across many individuals who, in the workplace, they speak English, and they're using their English in their workplace. But the minute they come home, or the minute they step out of the office, they go back to their mother tongue. And um, and I just have to say, I know that this, you have family, you have people that you need to communicate with in that native language usually, but there needs to be time outside of just work that you speak English and you practice your English. Um, so make that a priority. It really does significantly affect your progress. Um, One thing that is critically important in this daily routine and this daily practice is to read English books. And actually, I'm going to put in listen to English books as well, because pronunciation, you can't necessarily learn the pronunciation of English words by just reading. But listening to English books, not even if you're not even focused on the pronunciation, that exposure is critical in your English development. You have to be reading, you have to be listening to English on a daily basis. So putting into your routine, a half an hour or so of reading, or listening to audiobooks. I have a subscription to audible.com, which allows me to download audiobooks and listen to them. And I do this frequently, and it's something that allows me to continue reading, since I have a hard time sitting down and reading a book. I have 3 kids at home. I don't know if you knew that, but I have 3 children, and when I'm home, it is craziness. Um, so being able to listen to audiobooks is very beneficial. So audible.com is a great resource, as well as there are plenty of podcasts, free podcasts, and things online to listen to, download and listen to. But that exposure is absolutely critical in your English development, both for pronunciation and vocabulary, grammar, understanding, um, phrasing and idioms, and just all these nuances of American English. So I can't stress that enough. And expose yourself to a variety of topics. Sometimes, you might be proficient in the the topic that you work in, but then are unable to discuss or carry on a conversation in English about other topics. And kind of broadening your range of English topics is important, and that can come definitely from more reading, and being able to do that. Also, kind of going outside your comfort zone and speaking to people in English, and starting conversations with native speakers so that you can practice. That is key. All right, so number 3 I want to talk about is ask questions. So another habit to develop is to ask questions. Um, don't be afraid to ask for clarification. I think that this is sometimes, I know from personalities, and that sometimes it's hard. You might feel uncomfortable asking questions about what is going on. But if there is something that you're, a term or a phrase or a reference to something that you don't understand, do what you can to learn what that reference meant. there are so many idioms that are commonly used in English. There's pop culture related to references to movies and to history and things like that. What I want you to do, and think to yourself right now, I want you to create an ally, if you will, but someone that you can look to, a native English speaker that you feel comfortable with, maybe in your workplace or in your community, that you are comfortable asking questions to. And if you don't already, you might already be applying this, but someone who can explain kind of some of these references to you. And slowly, as you ask questions, consistently ask questions and kind of develop that, you'll be surprised at how much more you'll understand versus not asking any questions, continuing to be in the dark about things, about English idioms or English phrasing. Ask those questions, and really, for example, say someone says something in a meeting, your boss or your manager says something in a meeting, something like, let's put it, he's way out in left field, let's say. So an idiom, a common English idiom of he's way out in left field. Okay, this is a reference to baseball, and that they're just, it's what they're talking about is completely irrelevant things. But one thing that you can do, if you didn't understand that idiom or something like it, try saying, to a colleague, hey, can I ask you a question? So as you know, English is not my first language. I'm working hard to become as proficient as possible in English, but at times there are references I just don't understand. Can you explain to me, explain what it means when they said, and then repeat the phrase. I think that you, whether you know this or not, but with native English speakers, I find that there's a lot of respect that comes when we see someone whose first language is not English, see someone asking questions and making that effort to acclimate to our culture and our environment. And I think it's a good reminder to native English speakers when you voice it that way. It reminds them that, hey, English is not your first language, and obviously, I think it's very obvious, but reminding them that you are completely fluent in a completely different language. This is a second language to you, and most likely that colleague has never become fluent in a second language. So really, you've done something that they have not, and there's a lot of respect that can be felt through that. So don't be afraid to speak up. Don't be afraid to ask those questions. There's a lot to that. This article that I have a link to at the bottom, and I'll put these links. I'll go ahead and put these links in the chat box so that you can click on them and have access to them. But this article from Forbes talks about the best leaders are vulnerable, and it's talking about vulnerability and kind of putting yourself out there in a way that shows that you are human, and that you are humble and teachable, and that this is not necessarily something that is a bad thing, that it is viewed in leadership positions as a very positive thing, and something that people will respond to positively. So think about that a little bit and read that article and see how that might be applied to what you're doing, what you are doing or need to be doing. All right, so number 4, and this goes very closely with asking questions, but be open about your accent. And going back to this WHARTON, this blog article or this research paper that I spoke about at the beginning of the webinar, Huang talks about how being open about your accent can really be a great strategy for you as you are in a job interview, or you are pitching your idea to a board of venture capitalists, or you're giving a presentation or a speech or something like that. She says the lesson for non-native English speakers is that you can inoculate yourself from this by explicitly addressing the problem. Huang says, find a way to indicate that you have strong political skills. And, this idea of political skills is talked about in the blog. You can read more about it in that blog article. Tell the and then she gives the suggestion, tell the hiring committee, I know some might think my accent means that I would be less willing to fight for resources, but I am very vocal when it comes to making sure my employees have the tools they need. Or say to an investor, people might think that because I have an accent, I won't listen to the clients well, but I have a strong work history of being very responsive and open with customers. So those are two examples of where they indicated, you might think because I have an accent that this is going to be the case, but here's what it truly is. Or you might think that, since I have an accent, I won't listen to clients well. So being open about your accent, and really, in many cases, drawing attention to your accent allows you to move past it, and allows the people that are listening move past it. And even like in a presentation or a public speech of some sort, just addressing that idea, and maybe even giving a little background of where you're from, and how long you've been speaking English. And that's, I guess, only effective if you've been speaking a short amount of time. But especially telling them where you're from, and mentioning something about your accent. But I think that as when a non-native English speaker starts speaking, it becomes less about what they're saying and more about how they're saying as far as their accent. And I think that a lot of native English speakers just when they hear an accent, there's that automatic trigger of trying to figure out where they're from and trying to figure out where that accent is from. So being able to just address that at the beginning, address that, yes, I have an accent. Here's kind of, just kind of addressing that elephant in the room, if you want to say it that way. It really does help both you and the audience move past that. It's a very strong, a strong idea, a strong concept, and something that I would encourage you to use in the next time you are in that type of situation. All right, and number 5, another key habit to develop is make English learning a lifelong pursuit. And I love it when students contact me and they say, not that, and my program is 12 weeks long. I believe that yes, there needs to be a beginning, there needs to be an end to a certain program, and during that 12 weeks, you will progress and you will learn what you need to know about English pronunciation and fluency, so that you can both make incredible progress in that 12 weeks, but that you also have the tools and the skill set necessary to continue to learn on your own or through other resources. But you'll have that foundational understanding of pronunciation and what you must do to continue to grow and learn. But having that mentality of, all right, I have a lifetime that I'm working on improving my English. Yes, I will take these classes and I will make big jumps during these times, but I'm going to develop those daily habits of working on my English so that every single day I am moving towards that goal of being able to use strong and effective English. And it really does take investing in programs, investing in your communication skills. If it's important to you, if it's an important part of your goals, excuse me, An important part of your life's goals is how well you speak English. Then it must be a priority, and it must be something you continue to work on day after day. Um, investing in programs, finding good programs like Pronunciation Pro, um, being able to invest in them. Look at the areas that you're weak. Is it your spoken English? Is it public speaking? Is it listening? Is it writing? Think about where you are weak in your English, and do what you need to do, and find programs, or um, find help with those specific areas. One thing I want to mention is that, if you haven't heard of Toastmasters International yet, I want to encourage you to look into it. Toastmasters is a organization that has groups that meet all over the world, and their focus is teaching effective public speaking skills. And when I talk to my students and I hear that they are also they're going through my program, and they're also doing Toastmasters, I get so excited about that, because I think that is such a perfect combination. Because Toastmasters does not address accent. So you'll need to get that information and that training from us. But there are so many ways and opportunities to use the skills that you're learning through Pronunciation Pro while going through the Toastmasters program. So take a look at that. If public speaking is something that you would like to improve on, you feel like is a weakness and you'd like to get better at, take a look at that program as well. Like I said, audible.com is a good way of getting audiobooks. There is, there are podcasts available on so many different subjects. It's crazy. So anything you're interested in, finding English podcasts is a fantastic way to do that. But, all in all, see that that English learning is an essential step in your life development, and doing what you need to do consistently through your life to continue to grow and build that English language skills. All right, so just as a summary, we were talking today about 5 key habits to develop so that you can break through the communication barrier, or that glass ceiling that's talked about with non-native English speakers. The first is believe in yourself. Visualize that success. Create a vision board. Give yourself credit for what you have already accomplished, and really get your mind in the right place so that you can fulfill those goals. Number 2, make English part of your daily routine. Carve out time every single day and identify areas that you need to work on in your English, and use that time focused on your English development. Number 3, don't be afraid to ask questions. Find an ally, find somebody that you feel comfortable asking questions to, and clarifying things that you hear. This is good both for grammar, vocabulary, idioms, pop culture, phrasing, as well as pronunciation. I think the combination of having the Pronunciation Pro to really explain English pronunciation and fluency, and then as you come across words, being able to clarify some specific words with native English speakers will be a really great combination. Number 4, be open about your accent. Talk about it. Be open about it. Say, kind of address it first, so that it's not just this thing that everybody's thinking, but nobody's talking about. Again, when you draw attention to it, it allows you to move past it. It seems counterintuitive, but it seems to be quite effective. And then number 5, make English learning a lifelong pursuit. This is a lifelong journey, although there will be times of great growth, like during your 12 weeks of Through Pronunciation Pro. But look at it as something that you'll continue to work on and improve on throughout your life. All right, thank you so much for coming to the webinar. I will stay and answer questions for you if you'd like. And actually, let me give you that discount code that I promised you. So we have the Plus package and the Premier package, and you can kind of see more. And there's the private lessons. I want you to go through the private or the Plus or Premier package first before you go through this private lessons. But you can also apply this discount code to the private lessons as well. But on our site, we have the Plus package, the Premier package, and the coupon code here at the bottom of this slide is 10% off of your purchase. And if you put the coupon code at checkout, you can write the word gift there, and you'll get 10% off. So take a look at that. That expires on the 31st, so at the end of the day on the 31st. So take a look at that. Please contact me if you have any questions. You're thinking about purchasing or you have some questions, please contact me. And my email, Annie@pronunciationpro.com, is a great way to get me directly. So I'm going to go ahead and stay for questions. So if you have questions, go ahead and write them in the question box and we'll get started. Thanks for coming.